Team the vote.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
It's Taco Tuesday!
What up, everybody? It is Taco Tuesday. It is a Beam Tuesday. It is a voting Tuesday. You know, let's start there really quick. This is not a political show. This is not going to be a political take. However, it is going to be a take targeted at everybody that I follow on the X, that I respect, that I am friends with, that somehow we are connected. If I follow you, we're connected in some way. I only follow like 500 people. Not that I'm like some special person. I'm not. But I just don't want my timeline filled with a bunch of junk, right? Well, the last 6 months, and boy, has it ratcheted up over the last couple months and the last couple weeks. All the political stuff, the commercials, the takes, the tweets, the videos, the TikToks, the reels, whatever the hell you want to call them. It's been all that. So I am
Challenge.
Coach McCarthy.
Hey, man.
throwing a challenge flag to all of you that I put up with for the last few months, whatever it may be. You better get your asses out and vote today. If I find out any of you, I mean, any of you, if one of you has not voted in this election and you've been filling my timeline with these complaints, with these ideas, with these shots across the aisle, whichever side of the aisle you're on, and you don't get out there and at least throw your 2 cents into it when it matters, I better not find out that any of you didn't vote. If you didn't, you are getting blocked. Like, literally, you are getting blocked. Now, if you don't want to vote, that is your responsibility. That is your choice. You don't have to vote. Nobody is holding a gun to your head. But if you're so compelled to thumb out 280 characters along with a video, along with whatever, a claim, and I'm seeing that crap every day, I'm not going to be cool. You're done. I'm not following you anymore. If that is you. So if that's you, and I'm not saying any of you watching are one of them, I really hope to God you're voting today. Because isn't that why you were posting all this stuff all along in anticipation of today? Today is the day, right? Anyways, had to get that out of the way. If you get out and vote, good for you. Good for you. Comes around once every 4 years. Again, not a political show, but I think we've all had our fill of the political rhetoric and everything heading into today. So anyways, it is election day. By the way, because in a previous life, I did some law stuff. I had a career before this career. Your employer should be giving you a couple hours off work to go vote. So make sure you use that if you are somebody that works a 9 to 5. But anyways, let's get into it. And again, I'm not going to put all the political stuff up. I know that we could do a 2-hour show. I understand I opened the door just a little bit to it, but there was a reason that I opened that door. Because after today, I shouldn't have to see any more of that stuff from certain people. And I'm sure everybody here follows somebody on social media that does that or has a friend that's constantly just taking it to that place. Make sure that friend voted. If that friend didn't vote, they're a freaking fraud. Call them out. Call them out. Anyways, what a day. We are coming off of One of the more memorable Sacramento Kings games that I can remember in a long time, because last night in Miami, that was a game that the Kings lose. That's a game the last 3 years, the Kings lose that game. And maybe it's not they lose it in the third quarter, but at the start of the fourth quarter, that's a loss. When Miami gets the momentum back, when things start to shift back into the Heat's favor, when the Kings start to get a little bit more pressure, the rhythm isn't always there because you've got the guys on the bench that spurred the run, getting a couple of minutes of rest. But the Kings fought through it. Holy crap, did they fight through it? And as you see on the screen, Sabonis got his moment. He did. Think about all that guy does. This guy gets beat up night in, night out, quietly racks up triple doubles. He's basically a damn cyborg. Nothing can stop him, even injury. We saw that 2 seasons ago, him play through it. But when you think back about his career here in Sacramento, what moment has he had? Kevin Herter's had the 3 a couple of seasons ago. Bogey had his 3 against the Lakers. Fox has his fill of them. Monk has a couple. But what moment does Domantas Sabonis have? I'll tell you what. He's got this moment now, as called by the G-Man last night.
Heel of the rim, no good. Scramble, rebound, Sabonis, put back, score it! 7/10 of a second to go. He had a desperation putback in Toronto that resulted in the Kings getting to overtime, and this time he may have just won the game. Timeout taken by Spoelstra, 7/10 of a second to go.
It's on the short list for Domas, isn't it? I can't recall off the top of my head how many, there's only probably been a handful of game winners that he's had during his time in the capital city. I was at the first game after he was traded here, and he dominated that night. He had some big buckets, and that was the first night that Sacramento's like, holy crap, this guy was created to play in this city with his hustle, with his effort. But past that, the triple doubles, they come and they go. In fact, you would be hard pressed to realize this guy is close to a triple double if the announcers didn't tell you while you're watching the game. So for him to get a game winner in that manner, and that was a hard shot. That was such a difficult shot on a night where I will just say it, he got the shit beat out of him. He absolutely did. And he wasn't the only King that got the shit beat out of him last night. The refs lost control of that game. In the third quarter, the refs lost control of it. Sabonis had to leave the game because he was hit in the face in the first half. Then he gets hit again. He's down on the ground. You had a couple guys from the Heat. Adebayo, how do you not hit him with a flopping call at some point during that game? I went back and watched the second half again. He's flopping all over the place like a damn fish. He looks like he's having a seizure while the ball's dripping out of his hands, and they call the foul on Sabonis. Now, there was a foul there. It didn't have anything to do with the ball, but it definitely didn't have anything to do with this. He looked like one of those wacky, wavy, inflatable tube men that you see at the car dealerships. He's doing this. And meanwhile, the Kings and some other guys, even for the Heat, that shoulder that Foxy put into the Heat player, not Jovic, I want to say, I'm going off the top of my head, that had some punch behind it. So what I'm saying is the refs lost that game. They absolutely did. And then they tried to reel it in the fourth quarter. And when you let a game get that physical, you can't reel it back the way the refs did. You've got to probably call out some of the more physical plays, but you got to let the stuff that doesn't rise to that level go. And the refs went back to ticky-tack calls, especially the Heat. The Kings didn't feel like they got a lot of the whistles, which, looking at the second half, is pretty true. There was some egregious traveling calls that the refs missed last night. But nonetheless, the Kings come back and get a massive, massive victory. 3-1 on this road trip. Everybody would have signed up and said, hey, Kings go 3-1 on this one. In advance, we'll give you 3-1. You don't have to go on the road. You take it. Everyone here would have signed up for it. Hell, I said I would sign up for it last night on the post-game show. Here's the more impressive stat. Did anybody think in a million years this team would go 3-1 on the road, shooting 29.8% from beyond the three-point line on this trip? It's an incredible statistic. 29.8% from beyond the arc on this trip, and they win still. What it tells me is this team's still trying to figure it out, but you cannot knock the hustle, the effort that you saw on a getaway day. This team was headed home. In fact, they are in the air right now, headed back to Sacramento. They spent the night in Miami last night. So hell of a win by the Kings. We're going to listen to some post-game audio here in a minute. Also, it's NFL trade deadline. If you want to get in here, give your takes about anything that you saw over the weekend, I would love to hear from you. You can use the link right here. It's already in the chat. Put it in one more time. You can hit that, or you can scan the QR code. We will get to the chat here in a second on the Kings Court. Good to have another Kings Court, by the way. It's a daily show usually, but during the season, we get preempted depending on the start times and the other programming going on the channel. Jerry Reynolds has now been traded to Wednesdays. I hate to tell you guys, we have to now share Jerry. So Jerry is now going to be coming on the show Wednesdays at 4:00, and it's going to be on Grant's show. So make sure you mark your calendars on non-game days that are Wednesday. It'll be Grant, Jerry, and myself, 4 p.m. right here on If You Don't Like That, meaning Tuesdays are open for all of you. So get in here, give me your takes. Also, do me a favor, go check out our good friends at Bennett's Westside Grill, their third location in the greater Sacramento area, located in Rockland in the Blue Oaks Town Center. Hit Bennett'sRestaurants.com and you can learn more about all of their incredible specials. Happy hour, 2 to 6, Monday through Friday, weekend brunch, weekend prime rib. Also, last night, wine and dine Mondays, 2 entrees, bottle of wine, under $70. They've got it all, and you can now put in your to-go orders on Bennett'sRestaurants.com. So make sure you go check it out. You can learn more about all of their locations, fabulous menu, prime cuts of seafood and steak, and much more at Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Thank you to them for sponsoring today's episode of the Kings Court. All right, let's get to some of your comments. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to put it up on the screen, but I'm telling you, we're not going political. I wish it was a JR Tuesday. He has been traded to Wednesdays. Can you believe that, Ben? I was not happy about him being traded to Wednesday. No, I'm just kidding. I love it when Grant, him, and I can all get together. Yes, Jay, see that? Voted. There you go. Montezuma back. Aztec Nation. Yes, indeed, Jason. A lot going down on the Mesa. Down in San Diego, hoops just getting going. Man, they played some mean tricks on some of my friends on Halloween. They had some dude in a mask that was hanging behind the goal in the gym, and they had the coaches walk by. My buddy Matt Soria, who is a assistant coach on the team down there, his reaction was hilarious. He just goes. He just jumps back and then he just shakes it off, trying to be like all calm, cool, and collected as a coach. But good job by the digital media team down there. Let's see, Jay. We're still talking politics. Let's talk political. Get HH in here. No. I can only deal with one dose of Haunted Horse a week. I can't do a couple. Let's see, the sightings of DD Banks in the top 3 sightings in Kings history. Ranks, DD ranks. We'll see. We will see. Now, there are some things with DeMar, and it's not just DeMar. It's the entire team that need to get still ironed out. Because the best way that I could give you a quick summary or an analogy of the Kings season so far is it's like watching somebody who's learning how to drive a stick shift. That's really what it is. Sometimes they let off that clutch perfectly and onto the gas and they are cruising along the highway, and other times they freaking stall out. And in the middle, it's kind of You know what I mean? That's the best analogy I can give of this season so far, but it very well could be. I mean, what he's done in the clutch for this team so far this season has been really, really big. Now, I do have a concern in one area, and it's not particularly all on DeMar, but it is an area that's usually very, very important to this team's success, and it is not three-pointers. We'll get to it here in a little bit. Fox for president? Elver, you're gonna, some knuckleheads, by the way. You know what? Good job, Elver. Let's throw another challenge flag.
Challenge.
Coach McCarthy.
Hey, man.
Have you seen some of the knuckleheads on the X that are writing in people for their presidential picks, and then they're tagging them with pictures of their ballots? Who have I seen today so far? I've seen Joe Montana. I've seen Gerald Briscoe. Who else have I seen? I'm sure you've seen some of these people out there. And maybe Elver put De'Aaron Fox on there. I don't know. But it is pretty funny. It was a great win last night. It was a very good win. I've got the numbers from the second half that we'll go over here in just a little bit. Again, if you want to get in on the action today, I would love to have you on the show. You are more than welcome to call. We are going to go until about 2:15, 2:30. Grant will be here at 4 o'clock. Join him for Open Forum Tuesday. Open Forum Tuesday. Bane Clippers fought through it too, down 40-14 after the first quarter ended, and ended up beating the Spurs. The Spurs are still young, man. They are still young in learning. Now, that is a pretty bad loss, though, because the Clippers are not good. You've got a bunch of young dudes around James Harden, and the young guys have no idea how to play with Harden, but they're trying to figure it out. I mean, it's funny. Law Murray, who covers the Clippers for The Athletic, he was going to come on the show a couple weeks ago before the Kings and the Clippers preseason game, and it didn't work out, but I've been following his work, and he'll post things from shoot around. He'll post different inside videos, media clips, whatever. And there was a video of James Harden working the pick and roll with some of the young guys, like showing him, showing them the ins and outs, how Harden likes it. So that team could be dangerous night to night, but they should not be anywhere near the top of the Western Conference. Same thing goes for the Spurs. You got a couple of vets there with Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes. You got Steph, their new first round pick from Connecticut. So, they're going to be hit and miss as well, but a bad loss for the Spurs. Fox would be positive, passive AF as president. I don't know if Fox got pissed off, he might send a nuke. You piss him off, anything's possible. Anything is possible. How he got away with that shoulder shrug last night is beyond me. I'm not going to say which one of you hit me up, but one of you that has my cell phone number hit me up and said that was on purpose. And my response was, good eye. It was. Fox, he was playing, and I don't blame him. In fact, I love it. It's not like he did anything dirty, but he was rising to the level of the game. That's where it was at. Did you see Bam Adebayo? The way he was just throwing his elbows and his arms around down low was dangerous. And the refs this year have let it go. It's been much like last year, the second half of the season. But last night, it got a little out of control. But Fox, that shoulder, there was something behind it. It was a message. It was much needed. The Miami Heat did not feel the Kings whatsoever in the first half. Coach Brown talked about that after the game. In fact, we're going to get to some audio from last night. Actually, here's Keegan Murray talking about Mr. De'Aaron in the run that he helped the team spur in the third quarter.
He's aggressive all the time. And when he's aggressive is when we're at our best. We can go on big runs. So he was the focal point of our run in the third quarter.
Damn right, he was the focal point of the run. Now, here's the two things that I saw in the last two games about Foxy. The two things that I saw, and this kind of goes across the board for many of the Kings guards, is the pressure that the Raptors applied really constipated the Kings offense in this sense. The Kings couldn't get downhill. The pace last night was not great. Now, the pace was better in the second half. That was definitely more of a Sacramento Kings pace. But if I look at the fast break points last night, the Kings only had 5 of them. The Kings want to play much faster than that. And granted, they didn't get to the free throw line nearly as much as they do. They only got there 15 times, which also affects the pace. Miami shot 30 from the line. That was too many. That was way too many. Again, refs lost control of that one. Even if the Kings lost that one, I wouldn't blame it on the refs, but you're going to get somebody hurt if you don't rein that in a little bit, because those dudes, those guys, the Kings are not afraid to play to that level. And you saw it last night, that shoulder from Foxy. Here is Coach Brown with his thoughts on the game last night.
Road trip for us. Dropping the one in Toronto obviously was tough, but our guys stayed with it and fought their way back into that game multiple times to give us a chance in overtime. So, and then to get the other 3 with the travel and all the stuff, I applaud our guys. We challenged our guys to take care of the 3-point line, to be a little bit more physical in the second half and try to take care of the 3-point line a little bit better in the second half. And Miami was 4 for 16 from the 3 in the second half. That was a huge, huge difference for us. I don't know. I got to go back and watch the film, but man, it seemed like they marched to the free throw line every time. It's tough. It's tough to beat a good team like that in their gym. When you get out shot from the free throw line 30 to 15. And then on top of that, the fouls were 28 to 15, almost double in one and almost double in the other. I thought our guys did a great job of staying composed, because at any time they could have thrown the towel in. Miami's a fantastic team that's well coached, and when you feel like you're not getting the whistle, especially on their floor, and they're going on runs, it makes it really hard to stay focused. But our guys did a hell of a job with that. We came out in the third, like I said, took care of the 3-point line. Fox was a monster. I mean, he's a superstar as is, but I thought he was a freaking monster tonight, especially in the third, and not just with the scoring, but defensively. He was awesome. And then I thought we got great production from our bench. I thought Alex Lynn came in and gave us great minutes. Malik Monk did, Trey Lyles, and Jordan. Jordan's been in and out the lineup for a while here. And I thought he came in and he gave us real solid minutes. At the end of the day, our guys, they hit big shots. Our superstars did. DeMar, 4-point play, big shot. Fox hit a big 3 late. Domas, I think, hit 2 threes. I know one for sure in the fourth quarter. So big shots by all 3 of our guys down the stretch to keep us in the game, or at least give us a chance at the end of the day. But you take your hat off to Domas. He was getting knocked in the head and all that stuff, and he just fought his ass off for the 37, 38 minutes that he was on the floor, and to be able to tip that thing in with 0.7 seconds. That was huge. That was huge for us. He just brought his work hat today. 16 and 16 with a nice double, 7 assists. He was our defensive player of the game.
Definitely deserved that, no doubt about it. Really quick, getting back to my last thought. The pressure last night in the first half from Miami clearly bothered the Kings. The pressure against Toronto bothered the Kings. One of the staples of this Kings offense, with it being free-flowing and predicated off of reads and hard cuts and movement, is you got to get downhill to start it off. So the Kings are going to have to figure out a better way to combat the pressure, because it's going to come back when the Kings play on tomorrow night against the Raptors. It will be back. You've got Davion Mitchell coming to Sacramento. You've got Toronto that's got some confidence. Look, you've got young guys for this Toronto team that are getting minutes that don't usually get the amount of minutes they're currently getting. Toronto ends up losing 121-119 to the Nuggets, but the Nuggets were, I would say Toronto actually was leading that game for most of it. So these young guys are playing with some belief. They're playing with definitely confidence. And now they come into Sacramento, and it's going to be a tough game for the Kings because they're coming off this long road trip. Always an adjustment the first game home. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, Elvira, to your, hopefully I'm saying that right, to your question, do I think DeRozan might be the best player? It's almost impossible to answer because, look, this team's not successful without Domas being the workhorse down low, being that constant physical presence. DeMar is, like, you ever seen those people that walk on high wires? What's the dude's name? Nick Walinda, the guy that'll blindfold himself and walk between two high-rise buildings. You know that pole that they carry to kind of balance them out? That's what DeMar DeRozan is for this team right now. So I can't say he's the best player, but he is definitely the balance element to this Kings team, because last night, that game would have been done last season. That game would have been done probably the season before DeMar, I just said before like 3 times in a sentence, when DeMar hit that 4-point play. That's where the games were unraveling last season. So DeMar brings that element of balance, but it's got to evolve. And I'm glad Coach Brown at the end of the game last night called the play for Foxy rather than DeMar, because you can see teams in the last 2 games really catching on. Almost predictable that the Kings are going to go right to DeMar. And credit to DeMar. He's proven his entire career he can hit the clutch shot. He can draw a foul. He is the best person on the Kings team at drawing a foul. How DeMar draws some of these fouls on a nightly basis is beyond me. I watch basketball for a living. I played basketball through college, and I'm even looking at some of these plays like, holy crap, this guy's a magician. Like, it's so, the nuance that he brings to the game, it's almost unguardable, to be completely honest with you. So the fact that they switched it up and the evolution of what you need to see is passing out of those double teams at times. When you watch the second half film, when DeMar started cooking again, the defense is rotating towards DeMar. Somebody is on call to double him at all times. And so that is where I would like to see at times a little bit more ball movement. But because this team offensively is so predicated out of rhythm, it's really hard to ask Keegan Murray, to ask Trey Lyles, to ask some of these other guys that are getting minutes, but not really in the flow offensively or in the same rhythm that maybe a DeMar, a Foxy is in, to make a big shot. Malik can kind of create his own rhythm. We saw that on the last couple games of this road trip. But a lot to talk about, a lot to be positive about with this performance last night. Again, you look at the third quarter numbers, the Kings last night, incredible third quarter, best quarter of the season by far. Hands down, the best quarter this team has played all season long. But that third quarter particularly, what they did was just freaking impressive. It was perfect Kings basketball to a T. So anyways, we've got lots to still talk about with the Kings. Domas has a boxer's face when he walks off the court. Dude, Dennis, that guy, I swear, you ever see those, what is it, Dana White slap fighting? Nobody, the world's number one, could knock out Domas. It would not happen. This dude's got a chin of steel, knock on wood. Definitely a gritty win. Sabonis had so many calls. Yeah, we hit that one for sure. So anyways, going to get more to the numbers last night. Here's my area of concern. I talked about the 3-point numbers for this team. I think it's going to get better, but it's got to be a little bit more balanced with the passing. Guys need to touch the ball a little bit more. Keegan Murray needs to touch it more. Trey Lyles needs to touch it more. Kevin Huerter, you saw the Kings going to Kevin a couple of times at the beginning of the season with set plays to open games. I want to see a little bit more of that. When you have possessions, maybe 4, 5, 6, where Keegan Murray's not touching the ball, where Kevin's not touching the ball, I want to see coach call a play for them and just get them back, reset them back into the flow. Keegan's missing open threes that he should hit. Trey Lyles also missing open threes. Now, Trey's effort has been very good. Defensively, he's been all over the place. Offensively, when he's not scoring, he's tipping balls. He's getting active down low. But in the game against Toronto, he got to the rim. I want to see that continue, but you got to do more to mix these guys in because the assist numbers are not going to cut it for this team. They're not. That is the area that I worry about. The Kings last night had 23 assists. So 23 assists and how many turnovers? 14 turnovers. That is not the turnovers we've talked about, but the assists need to go up. The Kings need to have 30 assists tonight. Period. End of story. 30 assists tonight. This team wins, and that means the ball's moving and everybody is in the rhythm. You look at for the trip. I want to make sure I'm giving you the correct stats. This was versus Miami. So for the trip, here's the assist numbers. The Kings averaged, 24 and a half assists on this road trip. 24 and a half assists. For the season, where does that come out? The Kings on the season are averaging 25.1 assists. So not bad. The top of the league, I believe, is 30 assists. Golden State was at the top going into competition last night. The Kings can get there. The Kings have usually lived there. Now, you're going to lose some assists with Domas playing a little bit of a different game. The offense is not completely running through him anymore, which is totally fine with me. You don't have any issue with that because they were too predictable last year. It was either Fox or Domas. And at times the Kings just attacked spots instead of attacking their defenders. Now you can run it through DeMar. You can run it through Monk. You can run it through multiple people. My worry is when we go into the ISO ball, which we've seen a lot of. Some of you complained about the Raptors game and DeMar DeRozan's shot total. I would agree with you. That was too many. I think it was 27 shots that he took. Now, granted, he was cooking, but looking back on the film, there were times where some shots I thought were a little bit forced. And I get that DeMar has earned the right to take those shots. But if you look at what the defense is doing, I want to see DeMar. We know he's a great passer. He had an amazing pass last night to Sabonis. That's like a 1 in 100 pass. I don't think many people recognize that. The one where DeMar rose up like he was going to take the triple and then just dropped it in, like literally dropped it into Domas's hands over 3 defenders under the hoop. That might be the hardest pass in basketball, and he made it look easy. But I don't want the Kings to get to that place where they are predictable. And at times, although they are playing better, things are starting to get a little predictable on offense. I'd like to see the ball swing across court a couple of times, get everybody into the flow, and that is what's going to bring this pace up. That is what's going to bring the assist numbers up. That is what is going to help make the difference, in my opinion, with the three-point problem, because the looks are not the problem. I've only seen, on average this season, maybe 2 or 3 bad threes a game. 2 or 3. That's not that many. We saw 2 or 3 a quarter last year. So what I want to see is them get guys, again, back into a little bit more rhythm so that ball's not hitting their hands for the first time in 5 possessions at a wide open 3-point where it's like, oh, I haven't touched the ball in a minute. Oh, it's kind of hard to make a shot. And I get they're professionals. You got to be able to probably make that, but it makes a huge difference in basketball. Anybody that has played basketball understands what I am talking about. The game is so much different if you are touching the ball and passing it around. You feel involved. You do. You feel involved. It doesn't mean you got to take the shot. Doesn't mean that you've got to make the play or the assist that gets the shot, but you're part of what's going on. That is so much different than up and down the court, up and down the court, up and down the court. Oh, shot. That's really a hard brand of basketball to play, but the looks are there. Keegan Murray's looks are perfect. I think if you just get him a little bit more involved, a little bit more, whether it's just passing it around the horn, whether it's some high-low action, it's going to make a huge difference, not just for him, but also for Trey Lyles. I mean, Alex Len, I don't know how much I like that corner three that he's taking, but if Coach Brown says it's a good shot, Coach Brown says it's a good shot. All in all, a hell of a road trip. And we haven't mentioned one thing. The Kings were without Kevin freaking Herter for 2 games of this trip, and they still go 3-1. Really crazy. Grant said it best last night that this road trip was saved on one shot from Domantas Sabonis, and indeed it was. So something that's not really been reported a lot or talked about since last night is it got a little heated in the locker room last night. I know Domas mentioned something after the game on the television broadcast. I didn't hear the interview, but I did talk to somebody that was around for that halftime. And a question was posed to Coach Brown about what happened. And it's something he went back to that we heard a lot of in training camp about holding people accountable. And I think that's a little bit of a difference that DeMar DeRozan brings in to this team. Here's Coach Brown on what happened at halftime.
Time you get a win, first of all, it adds to the belief, but you get a win, especially the way that.
Oops, that's not the one. Here we go.
Again, we challenged our guys. They challenged each other. And, in instances like this, that's what great teams do. Everybody wants to hold everybody accountable. I shouldn't be the only one holding people accountable. Guys got to step up and say, hey, my bad, I got to do better. Other guys got to step up and say, hey, you got to do better. You got to do better. You got to do better. But in order to do that, you all have to be playing at a high level, not scoring the ball or anything like that, but just in terms of your effort and your focus, your attention to detail. And that's what it was. It was just everybody holding each other accountable, nobody taking anything personal, and us all knowing at the end of the day, we all had one common goal. That was to try to win the ball game, and that's what we went out and did somehow, some way.
Michael.
Indeed, they did. They won the game. Good job, Bane. Good job, my man. Definitely flow. Good job, dude. Flow is a good word. Karen even said it is a good word. Yes, flow. So anyways, give me your thoughts on the road trip. Again, the Kings return home. They are on their way back to Sacramento. They will be on the floor tomorrow against the Toronto Raptors. Everybody in the NBA is off today. If you did not know that, everybody is off due to Election Day. The NBA has been doing that for a couple of years. Last night, every team in the association played. In fact, why don't we run that down really quick, give you the updates and the scores. Anybody worried about the Warriors yet? That one guy that I don't like very much, just because I don't like anybody that trash talks Sacramento, especially when they were part of the problem. Yes, I'm talking about you, Buddy Hield. I might not like him, but dude's probably the leading candidate for 6th man of the year right now. Easily, probably the leading candidate. He is freaking cooking in Golden State. He puts in 20 last night. And the more concerning part is dude's getting to the free throw line. How the hell is Buddy Hield getting to the free throw line? Anyways, I digress. The Lakers lose to the Pistons 115-110. The Celtics 123-93 over the Hawks. The Nets, a little bit of belief there. They knock off the Grizzlies, do the Kings a favor, 106-104. Thank you for that, Jordy. We know about our Kings. The Jazz put up 135 points. How about that? Over the Bulls, so 135-126. The Knicks, disappointing loss. Jalen Brunson taking a little bit of heat in New York over this one. 109-97 to the Rockets. The Rockets still trying to figure it out. They're 4-3, one game over 500 on the season. Timberwolves handled their business against the Hornets, 114-93. The Magic, losers to the Thunder, 102-86. Remember, the Thunder still without Eric Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein. That is going to be a big piece for them coming back. The Pelicans get run off the court by the Trailblazers 118-100. Keep a close eye on what goes on in New Orleans. They are riddled with injuries right now. Absolutely riddled with injuries. Can they get it back on track and get everyone back healthy? We will see. The reason I say keep an eye on them is how this progresses towards the All-Star break, because it could have a big bearing on what happens with Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is in the last year of his contract. Yes, he is due to make $36 million this season, but he was on the block this summer. If New Orleans thinks this season might get away from them, that could speed up the process for Brandon Ingram. And that could also change the thinking of New Orleans in their franchise about their direction forward and the types of players they're looking for in exchange for Brandon Ingram. So keep an eye on that one. The Pelicans, again, only 3-5 on the season. Kings have not played them yet. They'll play them in back-to-backs later in the season. I believe it's right before the end of the year. It's unfortunate the Kings are not going to get to see New Orleans in this form. Their first matchup with the Pelicans comes on February 8th. In fact, the Kings play New Orleans all 3 meetings this season within a 6 or 7 day span. Your February 8th home against New Orleans, then Wednesday, February 12th at New Orleans, Thursday, February 13th at New Orleans. What odd scheduling. I get the NBA is all into these back-to-back games, or excuse me, these 2-game series where a team plays each other 2 times in a row, but not in back-to-back nights. That's crazy. You don't even do that usually in the playoffs. So anyways, keep an eye on the Pelicans. The Mavericks lose. Again, they're 4-3 on the season. The Pacers take them down 134-127. We talked about the Nuggets beating the Raptors 121-119. And the Suns, big surprise so far, 6-1 on the season, 118-116 over the 76ers. How about Joel Embiid in that situation? We haven't hit that yet because we have not been on the air with the Kings Court. Very personal situation where a writer wrote a column that involved Joel's family. Joel, apparently, no footage of this, confronted the writer. There was a physical altercation. The NBA, per Shams, is currently investigating what happened there. So stay tuned to see if any suspension comes from that. But another instance of a player getting physical with a reporter or being disrespectful to a reporter in the locker room. Remember last season, end of the year, one of the guys, Holiday, was it Holiday? Yes, I believe it was Holiday. No, it was Patrick Beverly. Excuse me. Patrick Beverly told a reporter he would not talk to her because she did not follow his podcast. He then was disrespectful. That was the same game where he nailed 2 fans with the basketball. Ridiculous stuff. Clippers come back, as we talked about, 113-104. And then those Warriors, man, those freaking Warriors. Watch the hell out. They win again. So there is your NBA roundup tonight. No games in the association, as I said, because of the election. Dennis Ingram is too much money. No, he's not, Dennis. The Kings could make that work. Depending on what New Orleans is looking for back, the Kings could make that work. Derek, I don't mind the push from Embiid. Look, you bring family into it. You do something like that. I get it. But here's the other thing. How many layers of people are around these athletes? Usually, you've usually got 2 or 3 layers. You got a fall guy. Send somebody else out to handle that. Maybe send a handwritten note to deliver to the reporter. You want that person to push them? Let that person push them. You cannot do that as the leader of a team, as one of the faces of the NBA. You can't do that. They're going to take that super, super seriously. It's a problem. Now, If you cross the line, I understand that too. It's just got to be handled the right way. And I think that's a problem if he put his hands on them. Let's get Ingram. Here's the thing, O'Brien. The Kings aren't ready today for Brandon Ingram. They're not. They're not. But if we get to the All-Star break, as I look at the Kings numbers for the season, and in fact, why don't we put up, I can't put it up. Well, maybe I can. Hold on. Let me see if I can refresh this and we'll put up the Kings numbers for the season so you guys can see them as well. I'm getting used to this whole screen share thing. It's new to me. So let's throw this up really quick as I'm talking through it. Remember, Grant's going to be here at 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Make sure you come back for him. Open forum. He'll be talking a myriad of topics, including NFL, which we have not hit yet. I've got thoughts on Kansas City last night and Todd Bowles not going for 2. How does Todd Bowles not go for 2 last night? That was insane. All right, let's get these stats up here for you. You can look at them as we talk about them. Here we go. No sound, please. I don't know what the pop-ups are going to say. Boom. There's your Kings season stats as we sit. Now, let me take you over here to this number. The Kings are a plus 4.3 in the net rating. That is usually the telltale sign. Oh, do we have news on it, Peter? Is Peter breaking news?
Acknowledge me.
Peter, did that just break, my friend? It did just break. He is suspended 3 games. Good job, Peter. 5 minutes ago, the NBA announced. We'll read it to you really quick, and then we'll get back to the Kings. Philadelphia 76ers center, this comes to you from ESPN.com, has been suspended 3 games without pay for shoving a member of the media. The NBA announced Tuesday the suspension will begin with the next regular season game. Embiid is eligible and able to play in. The incident in question occurred between Embiid and Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Marcus Hayes after the Sixers lost to the Memphis Grizzlies on Saturday night. Embiid had taken issue with a recent column by Hayes that mentioned Embiid's son and late brother, both named Arthur, while questioning Embiid's professionalism and effort to stay in shape. After shoving Hayes during an exchange of words, after shouting at Hayes, during an exchange of words, Embiid shoved the columnist, quote, "Mutual respect is paramount to the relationship between players and media in the NBA," end quote. The league's executive vice president and head of basketball operations, Joe Dumars, a name that we know so well here in Sacramento, said in a statement, quote, "While we understand Joel was offended by the personal nature of the original version of the reporter's column, interactions must remain professional on both sides and can never turn physical," end quote. Embiid has missed all of the 76ers regular season games this year due to left knee injury management. There you go. Good job, Peter. Peter.
Acknowledge me.
Well done, dude. Peter lurking, waiting to break news. Is Peter going to be our new Shams? Okay, back to the Brandon Ingram talk really quick, and then we're going to go back to the chat. See that number? 4.3 is the Kings net rating right now. So still a small sample size. Still a very small sample size for the Kings on the season. The Kings net rating last year never got over 1.8. 1.8. At most times it was, 1.6. It never got over. Most times it was negative, and it was between 0.3 and 0.6 for the majority of the season until the All-Star break, when the Kings got injured and they only went 500, but they played much better basketball. They played more balanced basketball. It was predicated around defense. If that number keeps going up, because that number is a telltale sign if you are a good team or a bad team, or if you're a great team. That is not a great net rating. It's a good net rating. But if that number starts to creep around double digits, it could be time to consider a move like Brandon Ingram. Now, the question becomes role and fit. Does he fit? Yes, he does fit. Would he be willing to accept the role that Sacramento would want him for would be very much like the Aaron Gordon move that the Nuggets made that took the Nuggets over the top. Now, here's the importance about making a move like this. One, it's a rental. If it doesn't work, you're off the hook, but you lose what you give up in that trade. I again repeat, you lose what you give up, which likely would include draft capital, probably Kevin Huerter, and maybe even Trey Lyles, maybe even Keon Ellis too. So you would be losing pieces. But if it did work, this is the most important point. The Kings could re-sign Brandon Ingram as their own free agent without any consequence with the salary cap and the luxury tax. There would be no consequence. They could go over to re-sign him because he is their own free agent. Again, the Kings are not ready for Brandon Ingram, but you watch that number. If that number continues to creep up, if that number gets to 10 and stays at 10 for, I would say, a sample size of 10 to 15 games, then the Kings are ready for that piece. Until then, they're not ready for that piece. They're getting there. They are definitely getting there, but you got to pay attention to that. You want to look at what the guys have done so far this season. I will scan down a little bit more, scroll over for you. You can also see their individual plus minuses. Now, the individual plus minuses are a little bit misleading. You got to be careful with those. So don't look at those and say, oh, God, that guy's a +7. Why is he only getting 3 minutes a game? You got to be careful with those. So let's get back to the chat. Let's see. Guru's up in here. Would you do Kevin Huerter in a first-round pick for Herb Jones? What's Herb making this year, Guru? I can't believe we're doing these talks right now, but let me pull it up really quick. Would I do Kevin Huerter in a first-round pick? I don't know if I would want a first-round pick. Let's get to New Orleans salaries really quick so we can look and see. Here's the Timberwolves salaries as we continue to load. Keep your questions coming in the chat, and we will get to them as we are getting ready to wrap up soon here on the King's Court. Grant will be back at 4 o'clock. Make sure you join him for his show, Open Forum. Today, he is making 14. So this year he makes 12.9. Herb Jones. The year after, 25-26, 13.9. And then 26-27, 14.8. So you have him through 26-27. I believe you have Huerter through 25-26. Kevin is making, let's pull that number up really quick. Kevin Huerter is making, you got him through 25-26. This year he makes 16.8. Next year he makes 17.9. So the money isn't too bad. I don't know that I do that for a first round pick. In fact, I don't think I do that for a first round pick, but you also have to consider where the Kings would be drafting. We're talking about the Kings hopefully drafting towards the tail end of the first round. I got to think about that. That's a good question. Good question by you. Nihai, we need a big man. We have scorers. Yeah, the big man thing is a little bit overrated. And in fact, I would tell you, everybody worried about this King size. I'm not worried about the lack of size inside. The Kings are consistently showing it's not a problem. They beat the Heat in the paint last night, 54-38. The Kings have won more battles in the paint this season than they have lost. The worry I have about size is on the perimeter. That is the problem for the Kings. That is the disruptor for the Kings. That's what pushes them out when they initiate their offense. That's what causes that 4 out, 1 in look offensively that we all can't stand, that we all worry about when the Kings go to that. It's almost like a zone offense, even though the other team's not playing a zone. That's when the Kings get stagnant, and that's what pressure and size on the perimeter do. So I don't know that they need another big man at this point. Let's see. We just need another couple of bench pieces. Yeah, the Kings bench needs some help. Definitely does. You need more from Trey Lyles. There's no doubt about it. We already hit that. He was sitting out games anyways, right? But the suspension begins once he is eligible to play. So it's not like an MLB thing where if you're a pitcher and you play every 5th game and you get a 3-game suspension, it's not the way that it works. Let's see. He would do it right now. Guru with a hot take. John weighing in, first round picks are valuable. Yes, they are. Kings need a better backup center. Progressive still going there. Valanciunas, Dennis, dude. I saw you tag Monty McNair in something. You're silly. Let's see. I've wanted Jones all along, Rhino. Yeah, I know. Oklahoma's net rating is ridiculously good, and they aren't at full strength. Yeah, that's okay. Again, you will not see a bad team in the NBA with a good net rating. That is the indicator. That is the telltale sign of whether you are a bad, good, or great team. And there you go. Oklahoma City. They're a great team. They're this, I believe they're favorites, the second favorite to win the NBA championship. Behind the Celtics, they're a great team. And they're not at full strength. Wait till Hartenstein comes back. Hope the players aren't jealous or envious of DeRozan. Why would they be, Nihai? He's brought a different. How do I put this? I think that they are the complete opposite. If anything, they're probably overly appreciative of DeMar being on this team. Because night in and night out last season, what was being asked of De'Aaron Fox, what was being asked of Domantas Sabonis was way too much. Now, they're professionals. They did the best they could. It was way too much. This team was off balance. You had too many finishers and not enough creators. That has changed this year. So I don't think they're jealous whatsoever. Everything that I am hearing is it is actually ratcheted up the level of communication in the locker room. Like you heard last night, it got a little heated in the locker room, but not in a bad way. That's what you want from your players. I know Malik Monk was holding Mike Brown accountable during training camp, and he still is during the season. You need that same thing going around. So I don't think they're jealous whatsoever. O'Brien, it's too much money. 3 players for Ingram. You got to look at the going rate for players these days. Depends on the salaries. We'd have to trade 3 solid players for Ingram, and our bench is already trashed, so no chance to get Ingram. What, you can't trade anybody out of the starting lineup, Guru? Just saying. Valanciunas and Kyle Kuzma for Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray. I don't think Kuzma works here. I don't. I think the Kings have moved on from that. Number one, Washington is asking way too much for Kyle Kuzma. You know, when a team is like in love with a player, like the Kings have reportedly been in love with Kyle Kuzma in the offseason and it doesn't work out, the asking price goes up when you know somebody wants a player that bad, especially when the market isn't super strong for that player. But I'm not going to say championship. I'm not saying that puts you into championship role. I think you need more than Kyle Kuzma. Just saying. And we are not trading Fox for him. Who said we're trading Fox? Never said De'Aaron Fox's word. Keegan is never getting traded. Never say never, Dennis. Never say never, my friend. A lot of people said that about Jason Williams. I don't want the Kings to trade Keegan. I love Keegan. I think his future is as solid as anybody on this roster. But never say never. I don't think he gets traded, but if you were, let's talk hypotheticals. This is a complete hypothetical. If you were to trade or entertain trade offers for Keegan Murray, now is the time that you would be doing it, because now is that balancing point between max value for him and where he's at in potential. He's either going to keep going up or going down with his performance, but with what's left on his contract, the Kings have already picked up the option. Next year, you get Keegan for 1.5 years. That's max value. Every day that goes by, the value goes down on Keegan because it's less time you are guaranteed to have him. So I'm not saying he would get traded, but each day that goes on, the less likely it is that Keegan Murray would be traded. Karen, never trade Fox. Disagree. I am not in that boat that would not be open to listening when it comes to De'Aaron Fox. Jonas and Chris is all we need. Nah, I disagree. Both bench guys, we don't need starters. We have the best starting team. No, Dennis, we have the best starting team Sacramento's probably ever had next to the O2, but no, we don't have the best starting five in basketball. Come on. If we had the best starting five in basketball, that net rating would be way better. You're going to tell me our starting five is better than Boston's starting five? I don't think so, dude. Doesn't matter if it's Keon or Kevin. See, now we're stimulating the chat. I like this. Now we're getting into it. We needed to get into some hypotheticals. Want to see Fox have confidence in his jump shot. If he can do that, he will be having 30-point games a lot. I want to see Fox be pissed off for 4 quarters. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see something in the game need to happen to get him into Foxy mode. I want to see Fox have a chip on his shoulder from go. It's hard to ask. That's a hard ask in an 82-game season, but that's what I want to see. Look, Fox, I said it before, he had one of the best off seasons of his career. He focused heavily on free throws. I told you guys in the middle of the summer, the Kings are focusing on the controllables. I straight up told you that. Free throws. We talked about the numbers from last year. That was their focus this offseason, and it shows so far into the season. Going into last night, number 1 in free throw percentage. And not because they're only shooting 5 a game. They've been getting to the line how many times a game? Getting to the line, free throws attempted 25.1 times a game. Night and day from last year. If that continues, I mean this, the Kings will likely, by the All-Star break, have attempted the same, if not more, free throws than they attempted all of last season. That is crazy. Dennis Kuz slipped and has sailed in Sacramento. Yeah, I don't see it happen. Can't believe you would say size is overrated, because if Sabonis gets hurt or in foul trouble, we would have zero chance of winning a playoff series. We need a solid backup power forward or center. I didn't say that size is overrated. I said the notion that this team is too small is incorrect. Not saying that size is overrated. I'm talking about where the Kings have issues with size progressive. The issue with size is more so on the perimeter, where some of those players that you are talking about, power forward, center, some of those guys, the best guys at those positions in the NBA, play out more on the perimeter than they do down low. But look at what Sabonis and the Kings did last night against Miami, a team that is built around an old school power center. They were just freaking fine. They dominated the paint 54-38. Now, could the backup situation be better? Absolutely. Absolutely. I take no objection with that argument. The Kings bench is the weak spot on this team, especially if Trey Lyles does not start to perform a little bit better. Same goes for Malik Monk. In fact, Malik Monk would have been under some scrutiny had Sabonis not made that shot last night, because the corner 3 from Terry Rozier that put them up for Miami, Malik quit on the closeout to go after him. He stopped. We would be having a whole different conversation. Malik has been very good this season. I love the aggressiveness. I love that he got paid. He's going to be just fine. But what we're getting with the lack of depth on the bench, to your point, what we're getting from Malik and Trey, it's not enough. It's got to be more if you are going to continue with that level of depth beyond them. Now, we don't know what we have with Orlando Robinson. That is the one thing that we are holding out for. Once he's ready to go and fully back from the sprained MCL, my guess is you are going to see him worked in a little bit here and there in the rotation. I am hearing they are very curious to see how he would work with the way this team is playing. And I don't blame them, but Alex Len last night, Progressive, gave you very good minutes. Mike Brown said it last night. I played it earlier. He thought Len gave him very good minutes. So my issue is not with the notion that the Kings have a size problem inside. It's a size problem on the perimeter. That is my thing. Could they be better? Yes. But anybody that's saying this team is too small, show me where the statistics say that. The stats don't say that. It's not the big worry that everybody had coming into the season. So I love debating these things. Keep giving me your takes in the chat. Len is our new McGee. Different players, but I see where you're going. I agree. A big man that can shoot, spread the court. It helps. Dude, I get it. I get like a Lopez, like what this team would look like with Lopez during his heyday in Milwaukee. Incredible. Even Vlade. What would this team look like with a Vlade? Way different. Absolutely. It would help. I just don't think it's the most pressing thing. That's all I'm saying. I think there are other things that can go on. Smash the like button. Appreciate it. Give us the thumbs up. Give us a retweet, whatever it may be. If you are just tuning in now, welcome in to the King's Court. Usually a daily show, but during the season, we don't always get to squeeze it in. If you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed here on the channel to If You Don't Like That. There is the QR code for it. You can find all of our programming there, including the entire library, start to current, of pregame, halftime, postgame shows. Man, those early shows, I look like a hostage. I look so scared to be there on screen. But go check it out. Also, a ton of funny and great interviews and good times there on the channel. And then do me a favor, if you've not already, follow me on the X. Make sure you're subscribed to the King's Court with Rhino on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, because you don't just get the audio from the live show that's here. You get other podcasts and my thoughts after games, breaking down the tape the next day, audio from the locker room and such. But just having you here is a pleasure. Really appreciate it. Ryan in Sacktown with you here on the King's Court, brought to you by Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. We are talking hypotheticals. We are talking about how this team can improve, and the great fact that they have come off a 3-and-run road trip, headed home to face the Toronto Raptors. Sports Illustrated article: Kings starting 5 ranked as the best lineup in the NBA. Dated 10/31/2024. Good for them. That's their opinion. That is their writer's opinion. It's not my opinion that the Kings have the best starting lineup in the NBA. I love the Kings. You know that. There's just other starting 5s that I think are a little bit better than this starting 5. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think this starting 5, when playing at its best, when playing the way that it played last night in the third quarter, to the tune of a plus 20. They were a plus 20 in that quarter. 37 points, only allowing 17. Everything clicked. The pressure, the flow, the court shifted last night. Miami stepped into the Kings' first half shoes in that third quarter. It felt like the teams switched uniforms. That's how special that 5 can be. I think they can compete with anybody. I'm just not ready to say they are the best starting 5 in the NBA, even if Sports Illustrated says as much. It's a good question for Grant. Kick that to him at 4:00. He'll be here on Open Forum. Let's see. Loving all the comments. Keep them coming. We're going to get ready to wrap up here in a little bit. Progressive. Oh, Peter got something on Orlando. Orlando Robinson's contract isn't guaranteed until sometime in January. Otherwise, it's only $500K. Yeah, they're filling him out with that other, 'cause they can carry a couple other that they don't dress. Mason Jones has been, well, actually, Isaac has been the one that's dressing under the two-way contract. But they want to see that was the interesting thing. So that's what tells you right there, Peter, and Progressive and everybody else that's talking about depth. That's what tells you that the Kings have a depth issue. The fact that you're carrying a training camp contract to see if this guy could still play with this team. You're holding a spot on the roster as we sit today to see if he can pan out. And he comes from the Miami system. Everybody that's been around him, that's seen him play, they think that Miami did not get rid of him because of a deficit or some issue with a personality trait. They think that they just had too much at that position, and we all know what happens in Miami. Progressive, we'll just agree to disagree. Fair enough. That's the beauty of this. That is the beauty of this. Kings are a top 10 starting five, but not number one. Yeah, I agree. I would even say probably a top 5 starting 5, in my opinion. I feel like the channel name is too long and hard to find. You guys do a great job. Miss Grant and Jerry, you're amazing as well, Rhino. Love how you care about the chat. Hope the best for you and happy holidays. Thank you, Nai High. And you know what? I don't disagree with you, Nai High. You want some inside if you don't like that? Napes and I had that conversation. We actually had that conversation last year. His website, if you don't like that.com, now it's also grantnapier.com. So it both go to the same place. So Nihai, I'm with you. I think if you don't like that is a little bit of a long name for a channel, but we're always looking to make improvements, how to shorten it. So if you have ideas, we're open to them. We take feedback from our viewers. It is a little bit of a pain to say that. I totally get it. But if you're a Grant Napier fan, then you can also understand why it's if you don't like that. Hell, the NBA last season used his tagline without his permission. I mean, in a commercial, nonetheless. Anyways, but hope you have a great holiday season as well. This is the best time of year in Sacramento. If you happen to be in Sacramento or whatever city you're in, unless you're in SoCal where it's a little bit different, this is the best time of the year in Northern California. The leaves changing, the cold mornings. Today's a little humid. It's a little bit of a weird day, but it's my favorite time of the year. And you've got the holidays right around the corner. I told my son just the other night, I'm like, dude, you don't realize it, but Christmas is going to be here like that. Like, we're already through Halloween. Seems like next week's going to be Thanksgiving. In fact, his class is doing a Friendsgiving. So we've got to cook for 28 little kiddos, send edition. And then Christmas is here. It's nuts how fast it goes. And by the way, I am so excited for these political commercials to be replaced with an overload of Christmas commercials. I don't care. Christmas me for the next 2 months. I'll take it over the political commercials. Anyways, we're going to get ready to wrap up here in just a few minutes. It is nostalgic, definitely. Childhood memory from when the Kings balling out. Somebody, my neighbor, just hit me with a set of not the 2001, 2002, but a set of the 2002, 2003 Kings bobbleheads, the ones where they're wearing purple. And he even had the stand for it. He just dropped by. He's like, hey, I got something for you. Like, that's so cool. But it brought back all those memories. We used to, in our household, in the 2001, 2002 season, if we were not at the game and things weren't going right, we had rituals. We had certain places that people had to sit to start the game. And if things didn't go right, we had different rotations that we would go into. And that included the bobbleheads. We would rotate the bobbleheads depending on the situation. That is how much nostalgia. If you don't like that, those bobbleheads, all that brings back. We all get it. So anyways, Progressive, what's your favorite sports video game? That's so hard. Gosh, that's hard. Progressive, can I have 3? Can I have 3? Maybe 4. Man. I'm going to give you my top 4 in no particular order. Tiger Woods Golf, 2000. I believe it was 2000. Either 2000 or 2001. The EA Sports one on PlayStation 2. I think it was PS2. Or was it PS? Yeah, PS2. Tempco Bowl for football. NBA Jam for basketball. And I'm going to go back to the Super Nintendo days, and I'm going to go Ken Griffey Jr. baseball, where you could play the home run derby. And you could play as Ken, but then they had these like giant roided out dudes that weren't real NBA or MLB players that you could play as. I loved that game. Absolutely loved that game. I would tell you now, if you fast forward to today, it's not a sports game, but the game around here that gets our family around the TV is Mario Party. Mario Party is a blast. We love playing Mario Party, and I'm not really a video game guy, but Mario Party is a good one. We have not got the newest version of it, but we love all the other versions. I mean, we've got my son always Bowser. Doesn't matter. He always gets to be Bowser. Put your favorite video games, sports video games or other, in the chat. We'll end that way. We'll put those up, and then we'll get ready to get out of here about 2:25. He's always Bowser. My wife is always Dry Bones. And I'm Who's Ever Left. Sometimes I will just hit the randomizer, but the one that we can't stand is Rosalina. That Rosalina character that the computer seems to play with half the time, she's a little hussy, man. She's always messing with people. She's stealing coins. She's like knocking you at the wrong times. I swear. It's like she's AI. She's not even a video game character. Madden, yeah, I respect Madden. You know, the thing is, I never really got great at Madden. I was good, but never great. I never got into like expansion mode. A couple of years ago, my brother-in-law left a PS4 over here, and so I bought a couple of games, and I bought 2K and started playing as the Kings and did my own create a season, won the championship, won the MVP, all that stuff. But yeah, Fortnite. Okay, so Dennis, my son is just getting in to Fortnite, just getting into it, which is really interesting. Nihai, NBA Street on the Cube. Oh my gosh, the Cube. Okay, NBA Street. Very good. I keep seeing commercials for Fortnite Snoop Dogg version 2. Anything to worry about with my kid playing Fortnite. We put it on the kids mode, so that made us feel a little bit better. Punch Out. There you go. What about Mortal Kombat? Were you guys either Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter? Which camp are you in? I'm probably more Street Fighter over Mortal Kombat. Both very good games, though. Where did I play college basketball? San Diego State, Justin. So play is a loose term because I never actually got to play in a game, but I walked on. I went to open tryouts. I was my college or my high school coach set it up because I had other opportunities straight out of high school, but I didn't want to go. So I didn't want to go to a school that was predicated on sports, like where I went to a Division III college with, like maybe 200 students just to play basketball. I didn't want to make that decision. So I went in open-eyed and very hopeful, had a very good tryout. The team kept me around. I did all all types of stuff for the team. Started videotaping, which then turned into being at practices, started practicing, which then turned into traveling, which then turned into sometimes practicing with the guys and practicing with the women's team. You would not know that, but almost every major Division I program has a group of male basketball players that scrimmage with their women's team. So did that. I was hoping I would get my opportunity to dress a game, or at least dress a game that my family could be there, and that never happened. But nonetheless, an incredible experience. That is my SDSU family through and through. They don't treat me any different than they would treat Kawhi Leonard when he rolls through campus. So San Diego State basketball is in my blood. Love them to death. Shout out Mark Fisher, Coach Fish, son of legendary coach Steve Fisher, battling ALS and doing a hell of a job kicking its ass. Man, we used to have some fun runs together. Let's see. All right, we're getting this on right on. Let's see. Crazy, all from a group chat. Roadblocks, dude. My son is too far into Roadblocks. Woman group chat murder somebody. Yeah, so we are very, very careful about what we let him hop on. We monitor that closely. In fact, there was one Roadblocks game. Sorry, we are way off the rails. We have been talking Kings all show, but now we have gone to video games in Q&A. But there was one Roadblocks game where it made it look like almost a Discord, where you were like hitting, like it would say somebody's name and you're hitting the button and you're waiting for them to pop up on screen. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm like, Liam, bring me that iPad right now. I thought the kid was like video chatting with people or on Discord. It was a Roadblocks game. They toe the line, dude. They toe the line. And that's how my son got hooked on a certain establishment, because we are sponsored by Bennett's. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com for more information on all three of their locations in the greater Sacramento area. But he got hooked to introduced to a certain establishment that has an adult arcade within it, as well as food and drinks. And they had a Roblox world. So that's where he found that establishment. We told him we'd take him to one after his surgery. And nonetheless, now he is hooked to that establishment. So anyways, did you meet Kawhi Leonard? Yes, absolutely. Kawhi used to come down from Riverside when he was in high school. And being recruited. So a lot of times in the summers, in the springs, when their season was over and our season was over, I met Kawhi when he was young. I wouldn't say that Kawhi and I are on first name basis, but if we saw each other, we would recognize each other. Great kid, quiet kid, incredible kid, biggest hands you've ever seen. Dude's hands are massive. But I guess being around the program at SDSU, it kind of, and even my childhood to agree, in the way that I grew up around athletes a lot, I was a little desensitized to being around them, because like in college, my college days, I got hooked up with Al Biacani, who was the King's strength and conditioning coach at the time, and he would run workouts in the summer for college athletes and pro athletes. And that's how I got hooked up with Mike Bibby. And anyways, we would have a ton of people that would roll through the program at any given time, because what you probably don't realize is Steve Fisher, my coach in college, was the coach of the Fab Five from Michigan. Anybody recognize that? Anybody know that? Yes. He was the coach of the Fab Five. So Jalen all the time would be rolling through. Webb was not around too much. We had Mark Hughes, who was a Michigan player and also an NBA player on the coaching staff. Gary Grant, who was an NBA player and Michigan college player. A lot of those Michigan guys, Juwan Howard, would be rolling through all the time. And then we had Bill Frieder, legendary college coach, around the program all the time. It was a blessing. I'll never forget, and I'll end the show here because we got to get out. One of the coolest games that I got to be a part of was at Texas Tech. So, and remember, you got to put this into perspective. SDSU sucked when I was there. Was not a good basketball team. They're trying hard, always fighting, but the student support is not what it is now. The show was always the show, but it's not as big as it is now. Games weren't always sold out. We didn't play powerhouse teams night in and night out like this team does or San Diego State does now. And by the way, speaking of San Diego State, Rich, who called in last night from San Diego, praying for you, brother. He is battling prostate cancer. He announced it on the show yesterday. He's gone through his 5th treatment already. So if you guys know Rich Flicker from San Diego, a big part of this channel goes back way before this channel. Say a prayer for him. Send him a good thought. We're thinking of you, Rich, and we can't wait for you to kick this thing's ass and get back on the road and travel again. So thinking about you, brother. But anyways, we played at Texas Tech, and Bobby Knight was the coach at Texas Tech. And going to our shoot around at Texas Tech, it was insane because the arena in Viejas Arena, which at the time was not Viejas. What was it for us? It was Cox Arena, which is a cable provider down there in San Diego. But Viejas Arena seats maybe like 11 to 12,000, and it's all one bowl. It's just all one bowl. And so going to Texas Tech, it was as big as Arco Arena. It was massive, right? But then on game day, to be sitting there on the bench and like looking across and seeing Bobby freaking Knight on the other side, crazy. So crazy. Surreal. That one really hit me. And he was pissed that Texas Tech only beat us by about, what was it? I think it was like 2021. He had the team in the weight room. So after the game. So anyways, we're going to wrap up. We're going to get out. Fun show that took a really different left turn at the end. But always welcome to go there and happy to go there. Make sure you come back. Do me a favor. Come back at 4:00. Grant will be here doing an open forum show, talking a lot more about the Kings, talking NFL football, and much more. Your questions, phone lines will be opened up. So come join Grant at 4:00. He'll be hanging with you and plenty to talk about. Day off for the Kings today, but they'll be back on the floor tomorrow night against the Toronto Raptors. Looking for that get-right game against them to even the season series at 1-1. Make it a great rest of the day. Go Kings! Light the damn beam. Stay the hell away from Levine. Court is dismissed.